So third chapter is Karma Yoga, and Krishna in the beginning compares Karma Yoga with Jnana Yoga, and why Karma Yoga is preferable to Jnana Yoga. Because most people in this world, most people, all of us in this world are much better, much easily can perform Karma Yoga compared to Jnana Yoga, where Jnana Yoga requires one to renounce things in this world. Karma Yoga doesn't ask us to renounce the things of this world. Instead, do engage in this world with detachment, without any any kind of attachment to the fruits of the work we do. So that's why Karma Yoga is more practical for the people of this world, and so that's why Krishna encourages Arjuna to be a Karma Yogi. And if suppose one is not as detached, he still has a lot of attachments, then Krishna says, practice Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda means within the precincts of Vedic Dharma, you perform activities, right? You perform dharmic activities only, even though you are attached, because you are restricted to dharmic activities. You will eventually come to the Karma Yoga stage. What is the difference between Karma Kanda and Karma Yoga? Karma Kanda means one will not perform actions which are prohibited in the Vedic injunctions. Uh, you know, like for example, somebody wants to run a brandy shop. It's also a business, but it is not within the dharmic precincts. So perform work within the dharmic precincts, and gradually you will elevate to Karma Yoga. Once you become, hey, there is no end to the desires. So when one realizes that, then he will advance to the Karma Yoga platform. Even though one is qualified and is very, very detached, he has no lust, he's not enjoying the fruits of his work, even then, you better perform Karma Yoga rather than Jnana Yoga, because by doing Karma Yoga, you can set a very good example for this world. And then Krishna discusses between the differences between Karma Yoga and Karma Kanda, and how Karma Yoga slowly elevates a jiva to the higher platform. So that is all discussed. So we'll discuss the last section now. So this last section is very interesting. It's a very practical instruction. So let's carefully understand the concepts here. So it begins with Arjuna's question. Arjuna Vacha Atakena Prayuktoyam Papam Charati Purushaha Anichan Api Varshneya Balad Iva Niyojitaha. Arjuna said, O descendants of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Right? So sometimes, a person may be very sober and very, in general, very, very normal person, but still something within the jiva sometimes can provoke him to perform very sinful actions, very sinful actions which we cannot expect from such a person, right? All of a sudden somebody steals, or somebody uh, does something abominable, somebody cheats, or things like that. So as if engaged by force, as if there is some force, within that individual that made him act like that, even though he is not willing, right? Sometimes it happens like that. Even though you are sober, suddenly you sometimes we all feel why emotions took over me in that moment and why I acted like that, right? When I'll give you, like, I mean, the basic example all of us can understand is, suddenly, you know, on a particular day, suddenly there is stock market crash, right? When everybody is panicking, everybody just sells. First they sell and then they think what happened. They'll not think until what's going on. If everybody else is selling, we also sell and then think about it, right? So there is some kind of a force that acts within us, that kind of emotions out of our control. Sometimes it happens with all of us. That's not such a great example, but when situations are very congenial for a certain emotions to come, we just splut out with that, and we don't think at the time, but later on, when you think about, you think, oh, what a foolish action did I do. I should not have panicked, or I should not have acted so angrily. I should not have acted lustfully like that. So, but those are all, first first a person acts as if forced, and then later things in a sober mind, right? So this happens time and again. It's not new. It happens to all of us. So Arjun is asking, what is that force within the jiva that makes him act, sinfully, perform sinful actions, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Yeah. So Prabhupada says a living entity as part and parcel of the Supreme is originally spiritual, pure, and free from all material contamination. Therefore, by nature, he is not subject to sins of this material world. All of us are pure souls, right? So, by our true nature, the soul nature of the soul, none of us will be impelled to act sinfully. But when he comes to this material world, when he comes in contact with material nature, he acts in many sinful ways without hesitation, sometimes even against his will, right? As such, Arjuna's question to Krishna is very sanguine, very thoughtful, as to the perverted nature of the living entities. Although the living entity sometimes doesn't want to act in sin, he is still forced to act, right? For example, when somebody tries to smoke the first time, it's very awkward. One gets cough, and uh, it's very uneasy feeling. But the same person was not comfortable the first time when he was attempting to have the puff, or the cigarette smoke. Over a period of time, it becomes his second nature, and it's very difficult for him to give up the same thing which he was not doing a few days back. Now that becomes an addiction for him. uh, and initially he might feel a little bit of guilty. Oh, I'm doing this is not good. But for a period of time, what happens? That becomes his shelter. Shelter meaning, anytime he was stressful, anytime he was down, anytime he was low, he's going to go back to the cigarette. That's where he finds his shelter, right? So we all need shelter in life, and what's our shelter defines uh, what's our consciousness is. Suppose that's why when all of us, by our cycle of karma, all of us, right, our karmic cycle makes us experience highs and lows. Just like a stock market go ups and downs, there will be highs and lows, utter lows sometimes. All these are possible. All these are going to happen in a cyclical way, right? I'm trying, just like day and night. So life is a going to make us experience in a cyclical fashion all ups and downs. And if one shelter is not proper, for me, a shelter could be God. For somebody else, that shelter could be, you know, feeling of depression and suicidal thoughts. If one is not properly trained to face tough times in life, that's where things will break. They will lose confidence because there is no their inner side. Inner is weak. Basically, there is no inner strength for them. It's all hollow. Most of the people of this world are having this problem nowadays. If everything is going fine, uh, you know, happy and uh, everything is fine, but as soon as sometimes it's even difficult uh, for people who are on the top of the college to even accept to be second in the college. Like for example, second rank in the university, they can't accept it because they think my standard has come down, and what do people think about me? So these are all wrong moral standards. People are wrong um, identities and identifications people have. So at the time, if their shelter is not good, right? Everybody, as I said, will have some shelter. The shelter could be cigarette, could be wine, could be his own, you know, bedroom where he's sitting down, depressed. Whatever his shelter is, that would define his next course of life. You know, um, I tell you sometimes. So this is, in modern psychology, it's called fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Right? Same concept. It's no different. Fixed mindset means one who thinks that uh, I am what I am and I cannot change from where I stand right now. So if challenges come in their life, they cannot get ahead in life. Uh, they think, this is what I am. Um, they don't basically they cannot move ahead with challenges in life. They are fixed mindset. Growth mindset is every challenge is a life lesson for me. Every so that's growth mindset, but they don't introduce concept of God. We have a much higher concept because we understand that behind everything there is God's hand, and actually through all these experiences God is teaching us uh, to improve ourselves. That's how we consider. So yeah, anyway, this is a little bit of distraction. uh, so what we are discussing is there is some kind of a force that acts within all of us, and it acts like force. And Arjuna wants to understand, even though I want to act nicely, sometimes there is some kind of force. What is that force, and how do I control that force? So Krishna now answers this question. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhiyenam Ihavairinam. Can someone read this translation for me? Anyone volunteers to read this? Yeah, just read this translation.
I can read. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all devouring sinful enemy of this world."
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So Krishna straightforward answers this question by Arjuna. What is that force? Is the question by Arjuna. Krishna answers that it is lust only. So the lust is not just the attraction between male and female. Uh, any desire to enjoy the objects of this world, that's called lust. It could be sweet, it could be it could be, you know, it could be a car, anything which is born of the contact of mode of passion and later transformed into wrath. If you don't get the object, you become wrath. Means is the transmogrification of anger. Means a very a negative form of anger. It expresses because anger cannot stay within our heart. You feel angry about somebody, it's just matter of time you would express it. Someone had a question. Yeah, someone has a question.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So in other translations of the Gita, yeah, so Hare Krishna Prabhuji, so in other translations of the Gita, the kama is actually interpreted as desire. So that's pretty much the concept, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, you can also express it as desire. Desire specifically independent of, you know, so there is, you can also desire to grow in Krishna consciousness. That desire is not called lust. But when one thinks of his own personal enjoyment, that's called kama or lust. So when we desire certain things of this world, obviously not everything we desire we get it right. If we don't accept in the right spirit, what happens, that desire that is unfulfilled transforms into wrath. Wrath means a very negative form of anger, which is all devouring and sinful enemy of this world. Yeah, so this is the real enemy of this world, meaning everybody in this world has one enemy which is within the jiva. It's not outside somewhere else. Generally when we talk about enemy, for India, it is Pakistan as enemy, but this is not talking about an enemy that is outside. It's much easier to deal with an enemy outside, right? Oh yeah, you can see the person, and you can plan for a war with them on strategic positions. You can plan it out. When the enemy is outside, it's so easy. But when enemy is inside, that becomes very challenging, isn't it? It's like having a spy that has come to country like India, say for example. He's this person is actually a spy from China. He's acting as if he is part of India, and he's in a high rank, and but he's actually, after all, he's a spy. Means he actually trying to leak all the secrets of India, right? So lust is like that. It is an enemy that is within us. Um, how do I give a better example? So it's like, suppose if you have an enemy and you have a gun in your hand, you can shoot that person, right? Suppose you are a soldier, but this lust is such an enemy that is like within you, and it's like, say, within your mind. Hey, it says, oh no, actually your gun should not be like that, it should be turned towards you, and shoot yourself. So it's an enemy acting within us to destroy. It's like, the best example for this is like a virus. What does a computer virus do, or a human virus, right? Any virus, especially computer virus, right? Computer virus uses the resources of the computer system to act against the system, isn't it? It uses the computational power of the compute instance against its own good, right? Basically, it uses its own resources to destroy it. So lust exactly works like that. Lust is an enemy within of us, within all of us. There is nobody who doesn't have it. As soon as you are in this middle world, you have lust. There is no way one can say that I have no lust, unless you go through the process of yoga to purify yourself. Everybody is born with lust. So that's the nature of the and then Krishna just gave the definition of it. So if you want to understand, if you want to attack your enemy, first thing is you should know who is your enemy, right? So most of us may not even understand that lust is my enemy, right? So the first thing is to understand, hey, this lust is actually my enemy, right? And then understand where the enemy resides, right? You need to know, if you want to attack your enemy, you need to know where the enemy resides. That will be discussed in the next verse. Yeah. So let's read a couple of lines here. When a living entity comes in contact with material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust in association with the mode of passion. So all of us, what is actually lust? Is that the people, is that what is it actually? It's actually a transformation of love. It's like a reflection within this material world. So originally it is expressed as a pure love for God, right? What is pure love for God mean? Love for God means love that has no expectations from the beloved, right? So that's called true love, right? Love without any expectations from the other person. That's a true love. So within this material world, the closest example that comes to true love is love of a mother to its child, to her child, right? Because sometimes the baby wakes up in the midnight, you know need to change diaper at any time. Mother doesn't feel any kind of pain doing that, because she loves selflessly, right? Even though nobody watches, still she does it. It's a true love. So that is the semblance, the closest semblance to true love in this material world, right? Mother has no expectation from the child, and she serves selflessly, right? So that's called true love. The love between, in the youth, one may feel love towards the opposite sex. Is that true love? It's not actually, because it begins with attraction to the female form or male form. uh, it's because of somebody's a certain kind of appearance. So later on it may become true love if they become married, and we're not denying that later on it becomes true love. But what I'm the beginning is actually, the seed is actually not pure love, right? So that we must all understand. Uh, so yeah. So, or in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Yeah. So we are all in this world actually searching for the true love, experience of true love, true unconditional love, right? So somebody asked Warren Buffett, what is the best experience of this world? He said, unconditional love, right? Unconditional love means loving or receiving love or giving love without any expectation. That's called unconditional. No conditions apply. So that is the best experience. And that's what we are experiencing. We used to experience in the spiritual world when we are in the Vaikuntha planets. That's what soul experiences with the super soul, God, right? Now we are within this material world, but we are actually searching for the true love. But that exact love with towards God, now we are trying to experience, you know, feverishly in various ways, through the sweet or through children, or through, we are expecting the same kind of love through various means, through through studying hard, or all of that is or fever to experience the true love of God. But that's not possible in this world, right? Unless you actually again develop in true love through purification process, like chanting. You have to purify yourself, and then you can again experience that true love. Right? So then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Wrath is transformed into illusion. Illusion continues material existence. Right? So this is how things transform. And when somebody is illusioned, right? Illusion means you see something, you think of it as something, but it is actually a different thing, right? When that continues, you are going to continue in this material world because you haven't understood your purpose of life. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in this world. Lust is like a covering. We'll discuss that in the next verse. Yeah. Here, Prabhupada explains the purpose of material creation. This material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to the conditioned souls to fulfill these lustful propensities. And when completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. Right? One will try feverishly trying to enjoy in this world, and when they're baffled by their different activities, they feel like this is not really giving any satisfaction. When they understand that, then they will begin to inquire about their real position. Hey, who am I? What's the purpose of this world? Why am I here in this world? Is it all about just studying, then getting a job, getting married, buying a home, marrying children, getting disease and die? Is that all to this life? When one inquires the higher purpose of life, after getting baffled, then his real life begins. Fortunately, all of you are like that. I'm very happy to note that point. This inquiry in the beginning of Vedanta Sutra, wherein it is said, Atato Brahma Jignasa. One should inquire into the Supreme. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now, therefore, inquire into Absolute One. Why now? Because now you have a human form. Until now, you might be in animal form. You never had the chance. But because you are human form, you have the ability to discriminate what is right, what is wrong. Now you have the ability to inquire. Inquire means to question. It is the special prerogative of human life to question things. You kick a dog, the dog either kicks you, shouts at you and barks at you, or just runs away. Only two actions it performs, right? But if you cook a human being, you can do those two things, and also he will question, hey, I didn't do anything. Why did this person kick me? He questions that. So that's only prerogative of human being. So using that ability to inquire, and where should you use? You should not use only to build, software. You use that inquiry ability you are using to build all these facilities of this world, right? That's what we are using. We are all paid, for example, in software profession for solving problems. Solving problems require you to inquire, research, solve the problem, right? But that's not the only purpose. That's actually mediocre purpose. The real purpose is to inquire into the purpose of life. Who are you? Where am I coming from? What's the purpose of life? Right? And so that is Atata Brahma Jignasa. So Vedanta Sutras are final conclusive truths given by Vedavyas. In short aphorism, after giving all the Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, right? Finally, he gave this one treatise which has very few hundreds of slokas, but this is summum bonum of everything that was given before that, the final conclusions, and it has everything that is needed for one's perfection of life. So in that, the first question, the first aphorism or the truth is athato brahma jignasa. Now, therefore, inquire into the absolute. Why now? Because now you have a human form. You didn't have that human form before, so you had no option to do that. But now you have it, so use that. Use that for the right purpose. And then it says, the second sutra says, Janmad yasya yato anvayad, right? Anvayad yatratascha. The origin of everything is actually Supreme Brahman or the Supreme God, right? One may wonder, what's the origin of all of this? To that, so that question is answered in the second aphorism. The origin is actually God, right? Yeah. Yeah. Let's read this verse. Dhumena brijate vahnir yata darsho malena cha yatol yatol benvan to garbhas tata tene dam avritam. Yeah, can somebody read for me? Anyone?
I can read.
Aranya Mataji.
Yes. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust.
Yes. So all living entities have this lust. When we say all living entities, it's not just human beings. It is also animals. It is also plants, right? So the consciousness is differently evolved in different living entities of this world. So here, Krishna is talking about 3 degrees of covering. How lust covers. Lust is like a covering potency. Means cover means, for example, suppose you are, you wanted to watch a movie, right? The first thing you do is enter the movie theater. What happens when you enter the movie theater? Everything becomes dark, right? You sit down in the chair. First thing that they do is switch off all the lights, right? So that is like covering the truth. Means you don't know what's happening outside the cinema hall. There could be a big riot, or there could be a procession. You can't hear anything. You're just covered from all the truth of the outside. That's the first thing. Second thing that happens is a new truth is revealed before your eyes. Means the lights are off and a new movie is being played before you, isn't it? This happens in dream. So in the daytime you're doing so and so, you're a manager or you're managing things, or you're cooking or you're doing certain things. When you close your eyes and sleep, the truth is closed. Means the reality of the world outside is closed to you. Second thing is your dreams start playing in the mind, right? You have a new truth playing within your mind. So let's come back to the movie example. Now you start watching the movie, and now you start identifying the movie hero or the heroine, and if the hero is in difficulty, you're going through some vicariously going through certain emotions. Movie is all about invoking emotions in your life, isn't it? You go through happiness, sadness, make you experience all these things. That's what we pay for. So you start living that personality's life while you're watching the movie, right? So that's what we all experience when we watch movie. Mm, so this, the first thing is covering. We talked about covering. Means the reality that's happening outside is completely shut for you, right? So that's called in Sanskrit, it's called avaranatmika shakti. Avaranatmika shakti means lust covers us. Lust makes you blind to the truth, actual truth, right? And a new truth starts playing within your mind. You might be thinking about how I can enjoy this person, so many things going on in your mind, right? So that's called projecting the new reality, or like just like how a movie is being projected into your eyes, right? The new reality starts playing. It's called pratyekshvatmika shakti. Avaranatmika shakti is the covering potency. Pratyekshvatmika shakti is um, the showing potency, the new projected light. So this is how we all get illusioned in this world, meaning we are covered from the truth, and a new reality starts playing in our life. So similarly, we all are in the spiritual world at some point in our life, right? In previous lives. Now we all came to this world, a new reality is projected. We are given a family, and we have certain surroundings, certain country. Now we are say, Mera Bharat Mahan. Who do you belong? This is a whole existence is actually a temporary existence. This is actually a foreign land, right? Not just America is foreign land to Indians. The whole material existence itself is like we are like aliens in this world. Spiritual belongs to spiritual world. We are actually in the material world right now. So we are like aliens uh, within this world, right? So here Krishna is talking about the degrees of covering all the jivas. It's not that animals are innocent. No, they are also covered by lust. Actually, their covering is stronger. So there are 3 degrees of covering. The first is a fire is covered by smoke. If a fire is covered by smoke, for example, there is a fire, there is a smoke on top of it, it's much easy to shut it off, or take it off, right? If a fire is covered by smoke, it's called very light covering, it can easily uncover itself. A mirror covered by dust, if a mirror is covered by thick dust, you cannot, if you try to see yourself in the mirror, what happens? You can't see yourself, you would see the dust, right? So similarly, the pure soul, when it is covered by dust, like a mirror covered with dust, he cannot see the truth. This is a little stronger covering. Fire covered by smoke is very light covering. Dust covering the mirror is little stronger than that. And then finally, embryo covering the womb. Just like an embryo, the baby embryo is covered by womb. Womb is a very thick covering. It's completely dark. It's completely fully covered. So these are 3 levels of covering a jiva, any living entity goes through, right? So now the example for lust covering as fire covered by smoke is human beings. In human life, lust covers us, but the covering is very light compared to animals. Take animals, animals in strongly influenced by a mode of passion and ignorance, right? For them to experience truth, or understand the purpose of life, is far more stronger. So the animals, the covering of animals is like mirror covered by dust. It's very difficult to understand the truth, right? And then finally, but still there are animals who are devotees in the past, Gajendra, or even sometimes in Guruvayur also we had heard about an elephant who would always come every morning and take darshan of Lord. That elephant passed away now, but that person must be a devotee of Guruvayur and Guruvayur temple, and he by mistake or whatever, he had to take the form of an elephant in his next life. And so because he's has good spiritual credits in the past, he was continuing his spiritual life even in the body of an animal. Very rare, but animals are mostly covered very strongly. And then finally, embryo covering the womb. This is the strongest covering. Very difficult to experience truth. It is like plants. Plants are fully in ignorance, right? They stand naked. They don't. So plants also have consciousness. They have very low consciousness, right? Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose, he actually proved that plant has life. But how he proved is he accepts Vedic truth. Vedas say life exists in all forms of life. Soul exists in all forms of life. And wherever you see this evolution of being born, there is growth, there is production of byproducts like flowers, fruits, or children, or whatever. There is life in that form. So that's what Vedas say. So he took that aphorism and he actually went on to experiment and prove that plants have life. So that is starting with Vedic truth and actually verifying the truth. So that's called a right way of doing scientific research. So the final, basically plants. This is the example. Embryo covering womb is understood by the way plants are covered. Extreme covering. It's very difficult for plants to understand the purpose of life and achieve anything in this life. Of course, there are sacred plants. Not everything comes under that category. Like Tulsi plant is not in that category. Yeah. So there are 3 degrees of covering. Can anybody read for me? Up till here. Can anyone read? Anybody wants to read?
And by which is pure consciousness.
Yeah, go ahead. Is anybody reading? I can't hear anything.
Prabhuji, I was reading, I think. Are you able to?
Oh, I couldn't hear. Maybe let's do one thing. Let me stop video. Yeah, let me stop my video. Now can you read?
Sure. There are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which his pure consciousness is obscured. This covering is but lust under different manifestations like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, and the womb about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be a little perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke.
Yeah. So this is basically fire covering smoke is, fire covered by smoke is the example of living entity, a human living entity. Human being, for human being, it's the easiest to understand the purpose of life and pursue the spiritual path. Yeah. Can you read again?
Although fire is necessary where there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. The dust on the mirror refers to a cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating a helpless position, for the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of living condition can be compared to that of the trees. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the bird and bees, and the smoke covered fire is compared to the human being.
Yeah. So it's all clear, right?
Mhm.
Any questions on this so far? On the two. So basically, we are discussing about Krishna said, your real enemy is lust, right? And that lust was actually originally expressed as love towards God. Now it came to this material world. The jiva came to the material world, and he's trying to express the same love towards God. Now it transformed into lust. And how it covers it, it covers differently on different living entities, right? For plants, it is very strong covering. For animals, it's medium level, and for human beings, it is the lightest covering. Any questions so far? Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy lust by cultivating Krishna consciousness under able guidance. We all need guidance, right? Before we all need proper guidance. Without guidance, we cannot really progress spiritually, right? So that's very important point. Avritam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpruyen nalena cha dishpunela nalena cha. Yeah, anybody wants to read?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire.
Right. So the wise living in it is pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust. So pure consciousness is experienced in the spiritual world. Again, we can experience once we cleanse ourselves through the process of yoga, like chanting, right? All of us are started doing that. It will take time, but overall, over the period of time, the process is expected to clean our consciousness. Yeah, so the pure consciousness is covered by the eternal enemy in the form of lust. Because why is it called eternal enemy? Because this is enemy for a very long time. As long as we are in the material world, this is exactly what is keeping us in the material world, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Right? It's like a fire that was set forever. It's like a fire, Lust is like a fire within all the jivas in the material world. It's never satisfied. It has so many desires to enjoy this world in so many different ways. And the more you put ghee, right? Oh, let me try this, let me try that. As you keep more fuel, it only is going to increase it. It's not going to reduce it. So we have to be very careful on how we pursue our desires. I have to be very thoughtful about it. If something is becoming extreme, we have to be cautious about that. It is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by constant supply of fuel. Right? Fire will never stop as long as you supply fuel. So there are some spiritual organizations which promote indulgence, right? For example, there is somebody called Osho. He says, "Oh, we all have lusty desires, so engage in sex so that we get rid of that." But it never happens, right? As Krishna says in here, Lust is never satisfied. It's like a burning fire. So the more you fulfill it, the more it burns. And because what happens once the first time you drink, it doesn't taste well. But once you become addicted, it becomes your second nature. Now you cannot even stop. Even the guiltiness in doing the mistake also doesn't arise. In the beginning, when we wonder, oh, if my father sees if I drink, oh, how does he feel? He feels bad. But over a period of time, that same person brings a bottle of wine in the home. You know, we have seen people where sometimes in the beginning they are very, very careful in doing that mistake. But over a period of time, they bring the wine bottle to the home. Before the children they drink, before their wife they drink. The wife chastises. He doesn't care. Over a period of time, he spends all his money in that, and he knows he's addicted, but he cannot stop himself. So unfortunate, right? Um, so there is an organization called uh, Alcoholic Anonymous, where people who are addicted to alcohol or any of these indulgences, they all come together and try to help each other. They all understand actually this is not happening in my interest. It's destroying my body, it's destroying my family, it's destroying my finances. They realize that these facts, and they become sober and they want to get rid of this problem. And the unique thing about this Alcoholics Anonymous is, all of them start accepting that they are mistaken or they are wrong about their perception of life and their happiness is. And they all, most of them actually start understanding the, inquiry or start depending on God. That's the only way they all come out of the problem. And they all in the process try to associate with people who also want to get rid of this problem. So similarly, when we want to get rid of the lust, the only solution is shelter of God. All of us have it. There is nothing like, oh, one person has less, one person may have more, but it's just matter of how much we have. Everybody has this, right? So in the material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maithun Agar, or shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within the bars. Similarly, criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Right? This middle world is called Maithun Agar, right? Just like a jail. In a jail, somebody is put behind bars. Within this material world, everybody is kept within this material world by the shackles of sex life. Meaning, as long as there is sex life, these people will continue to stay in this jail, right? So that's what this means. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence of living entity. Right? So the whole material civilization, what are we trying to pursue? Only increase the sense gratification, right? Sometime, there was a television interviewer. He was, interviewing Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, who started ISKCON movement all over the world, right? He was, he was trying to belittle India in his the TV interviewer. He says, "What is the mortality rate of India? At what age people die? What's the average, age at which people die?" And all. He was proud that, in America people live longer, they have a better standard of life, like that. So Prabhupada said, whether it is India or America, the mortality rate is 100%, meaning everybody is going to die in this world. There is no there is no saving. That's not whether somebody lives 10 more years or 5 more years doesn't really matter. The real problem is death. It's this extension of life is a mere band-aid solution to the problem of death. It's not really solving the problem of death. The real solution is taking to a spiritual path and never to come back to this material world. So we have a real solution to this mortality problem. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. So by practicing spiritual life, you don't need to again come back to this middle world. You can actually solve this problem forever. So that's what you should aspire. You should not you should not be proud for your band-aid solution. That's how Prabhupada answers, right? So the whole advancement of civilization, if you look at, all of us were, educated in engineering or, sciences area, right? But ultimately, what are we trying to do? All the engineering work we do is actually meant to better material standard of life. It is about how we can make sleeping, eating, and mating much comfortable. That's it. So this whole material advancement is, you know is just increasing the duration of material existence of a living entity in the material world, right? It doesn't solve the real problem. We all want to. The whole purpose of science is to discover and solve the problems of life, right? They want to increase the lifespan, or make Google and other companies, they are trying to make understand how the living entity's life can be extended forever, right? There are some people who gave millions of dollars and were preserved in cryogenic fluids, with the understanding that at some point science will discover, they were dead and they were kept in cryogenic fluids, so that they also invested in research about immortality. And if science were ever to discover and bring back life, that's when they want to come back to life and enjoy the world again. So that's a very uh, you know uh, hopeful thinking, because the material world, everything, life is organic, meaning it has to go through these phases and has to come back. Everything, not only anything material in this world is like that. All these great companies that we talk about today, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, they are the greatest companies. They boom like anything. We are thinking like that, right? Ask any person who is 40 years or 50 years older than us, who are in America. What they're talking about? They're talking about exactly how we feel about Facebook now. They were talking about Ford, ZM, all these great companies like that. Now what happened to them? They are taking a back seat. So everything in this material world is organic. It has its youthful age when it blossoms and exhibits its full power, and then it also dwindles. At some point it vanishes completely. After 100 years, I'm 100% sure nobody would know about Microsoft, also know about Amazon. They may be some historical references, but it doesn't exist. That's how the world works, right? While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feelings of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer, right? We may think we are enjoying, but actually it is a bait. For example, when we enjoy senses in this world, it's like a bait. For example, a fish, you know, suddenly sees a worm or something. It tries to eat it. What happens? It is hung to the, what do you call, the what do you call, how, a fisherman has a net or something, right, where he has a lot of bait, and all these fishes think that, oh, I'm enjoying, and they try to catch it and eat it, and then suddenly they're caught, right, and they want to escape, they can't escape. Similarly, this material world provides us with so many distractions for enjoyment. One should be very careful on what he's trying to enjoy, so that temporarily it may be a very gratifying, but in the long term it becomes enemy for us. Just like any of these addictions are like that. Wine, or even nobody thinks that he's going to one day become addict. The that whole family talks about, right? Nobody thinks like that. If he ever thinks that, he will never do that, right? There was the story of Azamila in our scriptures. Have anybody heard about Azamila?
Yes, Prabhu, I have.
Yeah. So let me just quickly explain about Azamila. Azamila was is a born in a Brahmin family, very religious family, and he was brought up in good samskaras. So he was married. He has a wife, children. Right, wife was beautiful, and everything was nice. He was self-sufficient. He has things going, everything in his favor. Right. So one day, while he goes to forest, and this is like a historical real story. So he goes to forest to fetch some wood for for starting fire, right, at home for yajna. So it's called samidas. So he goes and fetches that on the path. While returning on this path to get, going to forest and getting back, he sees a woman and man, a Sudrani, engaged in sex right outside, under the daylight, in a very in an open way. Suddenly he sees that, that kind of a image, and immediately lust kicks within this world, within his heart. So now he starts thinking how I can enjoy this woman, just like the other man trying to enjoy. So he goes back to his home, but his mind was totally disturbed. His thoughts are fully, because he felt lust towards this woman, right? Now, if anybody at that point tells Azamila, hey, you're being addicted with lust towards this woman and you're going in the wrong course of life, and within few days you are going to give up your wife and all of that, nobody will accept that. But that's exactly what happens. He slowly gives up his wife and employs this woman as his maid servant, and slowly starts engaging in sex with her and starts producing children. It's a long story, and you know ultimately he loses everything. He becomes a addict to wine, and you know it's attack of lust basically. There was this debate in India when that. So now, who is at mistake? Is the people who are trying to engage in sex outside, or the person who is, who watched that and was impelled by it, or forced by the lust, invoked by that thing that he watched? Anybody wants to answer? Who is at wrong here?
The person, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhu, this is for the person who watches and creates a desire that I also want to enjoy.
Yeah. The primary mistake is by the person who actually was invoked, that lust, right? For example, I mean, there was a gang rape in Delhi few years back, 5-6 years back, or maybe 10 years back. there were arguments on both sides. Why why should a woman walk in the night at 9 o'clock, watch movies? And just because a woman is walking on the road like that, nobody has a license to exploit her, isn't it? It is the lust within you that made it. It's not the woman's fault. At the same time, we can also say that women can be more responsible. For example, a person uh, walks in a street at night, exhibiting money in his pocket. On the top pocket he keeps $100, five of them in the left pocket, five in the right pocket. All showing outside. All showing off outside. If somebody steals from that person, who is at mistake? It is both. It's legally it is 100% mistake of the thief. He should be punished for. But at the same time, exhibiting those rupee notes is also not proper on behalf of the person who was stolen from, right? So there is some kind of a responsibility on both sides, but the primary mistake is from the person who steals. The other person tries to exhibit like this, we are also sending a signal. Yes, hey, this is here for exploitation, right? So as long as that person is normal and he's not doing any of that, then mistake is 100% with the thief. But if the person is also lust invoking and exhibiting body or whatever, then it is a mistake of the person also, because we are in society, we also have to be responsible. A person exhibits money like that to show off that he has money, and if somebody robs, it's also personal mistake on his side to actually exhibit that in a way that people, he thinks that, oh, everybody thinks that I am rich, look at the money I have. But people only think that how I can exploit this guy and get that money in my pocket instead of his pocket, right? So what we think about what we are, or that's not exactly what others feel. When you exhibit your prowess, your car or this thing, don't think that people are very happy about how I became rich, unique, and uh, don't think that people consider us great, or like that. People think, oh, why this guy got it, why shouldn't I have it? So that's how the material world is. So trying to become an enjoyer in this world is like that. You want to exhibit to other people that you're a millionaire or you have a big home, or don't think that people become happy. They may be your best friends, but most people are not like that. Don't think that they're very happy about your riches, or people become envious actually, right? Other than your own guru, other than your own parents, who are your true well-wishers, 98% of people actually become envious when somebody exhibits. That's the nature of this world. Do not think that the nature of the world would change with you. No, that's how the world works. That is material world. Welcome to the material world, right? So let's read this. Indriyani manobhuddhir asadhi asadhistanam uchate etay vimohayatyasa jnanam avritya dehinam. Can anyone read for me? We'll stop with this 40th.
I can read, Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of living entity and bewilders him.
Yeah. So the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. So we all understand we have some enemy. It is in the form of lust. Lust basically is the desire to enjoy in this world, exhibited as the desire to enjoy in this world. Now we need to understand where this lust resides, the places where, if you want to conquer your enemy, you need to know who is the enemy. You also need to know where the enemy resides, so that you will be careful when that enemy exhibits from that place, right? So the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So these are the three sitting places: senses, mind, and intelligence. And through that, it covers the real knowledge. Real knowledge means who you are, right? Who am I? What is my purpose of life? Who is God? So all these are real knowledge. So those real knowledge, real inquiries, all of them will be covered through lust and makes him bewilder. Sometimes we go through so many emotions of distress, anger, envy. These are all bewilderments for the living entity because they are not found in the spiritual soul. They're all there because lust is directing from within in various ways. Yeah. So can you read again, Ro? Can't hear. Are you reading? Nitin Prabhu?
Sorry, Prabhu, it was muted. Sorry.
Hmm.
The enemy has. You want to read the purport, right?
Yeah.
The enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places, so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Mind is the center of all activities of the senses, and thus, when we hear about the sense objects in the mind, sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification.
Hmm. So mind is called coordinating sense, right? All of us have our senses. Nose can smell, eyes can see, hands can touch, skin can touch. All these are different senses, and through senses we gain knowledge of this world, right? We use our senses, and all this knowledge that we gather through senses is sent to mind. Mind will process all this data. It's called coordinating sense, and it gives an understanding to you, right? Even it gives an understanding to an animal. And cat comes slowly walking, right? As soon as it sees milk, it slowly walks. And as soon as it sees you, the data, the senses have received the new data. Hey, here is an enemy for me. He may stop me from drinking the milk, right? He steps back. So we gather information through all these senses, and mind would process this data, and it knows how to act after that, right? So mind is coordinating sense. So the enemy, lust, has captured different strategic positions in the body. What are the positions it captured? Senses, mind, and intelligence. Therefore, Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Mind is the center of all activities. Thus, when we hear the sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. Right? And as a result, the mind and the senses become repository of lust. Right? All the ideas for enjoyment are first in the mind before they become manifest in the world. Right? The intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. So the intelligence decides, should I do or should I not do, like that. You have a gulab jamun, you like it. Your senses are already made up plans on eating it, right? Your mind is full of past experiences of eating gulab jamun. Now it's just matter of eating it. But then intelligence kicks in, says, "Hey, you are a diabetic. You should not eat." Right? Then immediately you go back. Oh, I should not eat now. So that's how intelligence works. Intelligence is the discriminating power. Mind is the repository of all the sense experiences of the past, and it coordinates the new experiences. brings out new ideas. All of that is done by mind. Right? Intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. If intelligence is weak, your last guard is broken. You would act and eat it, right? Intelligence is the next immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify with the matter, thus the mind and senses. So now it thinks that, hey, eating this is the real happiness. That's called lusty intelligence. And it doesn't mean that you don't eat gulab jamun. You can nicely offer to Krishna and eat it. But don't think that this is the ultimate happiness. When you eat it, when you think that, hey, this is prasadam of God, that's different. It's all in the consciousness. Now you think, hey, I got gulab jamun, I am going to enjoy it. That's called lusty intelligence. You see, the same action, you're eating, a devotee is eating, I'm eating, everybody is eating, but the consciousness is different. That's what makes either something is lusty or not. Right? So bhakti doesn't prohibit anything. It only purifies the thing. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying these material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. Right? That's how spirit soul thinks. This false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vishatma buddhi kunapek tadratike. So this is a very nice verse. Human being who identifies his body made of three elements with his self, who considers byproduct of body to be his kinsman, who considers the land of birth is worshipable, who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, used to be considered like an ass or a cow. Basically, if you act just ritualistically without really understanding the purpose of life, you're like an ass. Means you are just, there is no real spiritual progress in your life. Okay, so we'll end the class here. I think it's 6:30. People, I think already half of them left. Okay, we'll stop here. Any questions? Did everything make sense? Anybody?
Yes, Prabhu, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going, speed, or if you have any feedback, we can improve. Okay, if no questions, we'll end here. Thank you all. We'll again see you next week. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.